Hello and welcome to the Minds on the Frontline podcast, brought to you by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. FST5 provides streamlined access to behavioral and mental health services, as well as crisis resources for Michigan's Frontline 5 workers and their families. This includes all professional, part-time, and volunteer firefighters, EMS, law enforcement, corrections officers, and 911 dispatchers in Michigan and their immediate family members. FST5 was collaboratively created by first responders and mental health experts to provide 24/7 live support, effective resources, and cutting-edge services to prevent and alleviate PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Need help now? If you are a frontline worker in Michigan or an immediate family member experiencing any crisis, work-related, substance abuse, depression, relationships, finances, or any other, reach out by calling 1-833-34-STRONG or go to fst5.org for more information. I'm Jeff Lassers, one of the hosts of the Minds on the Frontline podcast, and I'm a professional firefighter, paramedic, educator, and content creator. Minds on the Frontline is co-hosted by Mike Mattern, who is also a professional firefighter and paramedic. In addition, Mike is a peer support team member for his fire department and the Frontline Strong Together 5 program, as well as the chair of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union Behavioral Health Committee, and a board member of the Michigan Crisis Response Association. Mike has training and experience with frontline worker mental and behavioral health. On the other hand, I do not. My role is to produce the show, whereas Mike is our resident subject matter expert. Together we hope to inform, educate, and entertain frontline workers, their families, and the public regarding the realities of frontline work-related mental and behavioral health challenges. Unfortunately, Mike was unable to join us in this episode, but he'll be back in the next one. In this episode, we talk about cancer and the frontline community. The incidence and impact of cancer among the Frontline 5 communities, particularly fire and EMS personnel, are notably higher compared to the general population. Occupational cancer has surpassed cardiac events as the leading cause of death in these professions. The heightened risk is linked to our frequent contact with carcinogens during our careers. Firefighters, for instance, encounter a range of harmful substances that increase the chances of developing various cancers, such as leukemia, lung, bladder, skin, and blood cancers, along with nasopharyngeal, laryngeal, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and sarcoma. In essence, firefighters and EMS workers are at a substantially increased risk for a variety of cancers due to our job-related exposure to carcinogens. In fact, cancer is the most dangerous threat to firefighter health and safety today. 75% of IAFF fallen firefighters died from occupational cancer in 2022. According to National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health Research, firefighters have a 9% higher risk of being diagnosed with cancer, along with a 14% higher risk of dying from cancer than the general U.S. population. Fortunately, research is underway to better understand and reduce these risks, and initiatives are in progress to offer resources and support those affected. The diagnosis of cancer in a frontline worker or their family member can be a profound psychological blow, often leading to a cascade of mental and behavioral health challenges. The uncertainty and severity of the condition can trigger stress, anxiety, and depression, not only in the diagnosed individual, but also among their close family members, caregivers, and colleagues. The mental toll is compounded by the physical demands of their roles and the need to maintain a high level of performance at work. Frontline workers may also experience survivor's guilt if they remain healthy while their peers are affected. Support systems, including counseling and peer support groups, are vital in helping these individuals navigate the complexities of their emotional responses, ensuring that their mental health is cared for with the same diligence as their physical well-being. Today we are joined by Larry Gambotto and Joe Warne. Larry and Joe are here to discuss cancer in the frontline community, the mental and emotional impact of the disease, and various services, networks, and resources that are available to frontline workers and their families. Larry is the training and safety captain for the Rochester Hills Fire Department, a co-chair of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union Safety and Health Committee, and a cancer survivor. In addition, Larry is the state director of Michigan for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. The FCSN helps firefighters, EMS professionals, and their families cope with cancer, It is their goal to provide occupational cancer awareness, prevention training, and support for those dealing with cancer nationwide. Visit firefighters.org to join the fight today to educate, support, and make a difference. Joe Warne is a firefighter and EMT at the Macomb Township Fire Department. In addition, Joe is the president of Neighbors United, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting firefighters battling cancer. The organization's main initiative is the Walk for the Red annual fundraiser, which is a 140-mile walk in full bunker gear that begins in Macomb Township, Michigan, and ends in Cascade, Michigan. Since its inception in 2019, Neighbors United has helped nearly 150 firefighting families affected by cancer, donating over $500,000. The group aims to raise funds to provide significant financial support to each firefighter and their family. Neighbors United emphasizes the higher cancer risk in firefighters due to exposure to carcinogens and strives to support those in firefighting communities who are affected by this disease. Visit walkforthered.org for more information and to donate. This was a great episode, and I really enjoyed having Larry and Joe on the show. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining me out here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, kick us off. Larry, who are you? What do you do, and where do you do it?
Larry Gambotto, here on behalf of several organizations, but full-time I am captain of training and safety for the Rochester Hills Fire Department. Been there for over 17 years. Pretty fortunate in the position that I am. I've been able to be involved in several other areas. MPFFU's Health and Safety Committee. I'm the chair on that, or co-chair. And I also represent the Firefighter Cancer Support Network as the state director for Michigan.
Right on. Right on. Those are all very cool organizations. We'll get more into all those very shortly. But Joe, who are you? What do you do?
I'm Joe Warne. I'm a Macomb Township firefighter for the last 11 years, and I also the president of Neighbors United, where we financially assist Michigan firefighters that have cancer or who have passed away of cancer.
Yeah, and you really hit the nail on the head on what the whole theme today is, and it's the same old cancer sucks.
Yeah.
And we got a cancer survivor and somebody doing their best to help cancer patients and survivors at this point. But let's start with you, Larry. Let's tell your story about being a cancer survivor, because you're a little bit different. You know, as you know, firefighters and frontline workers have a higher incidence of cancer diagnosis. Specifically, firefighters are beyond more than all of the other frontline four. But you had cancer before you were a firefighter. And then you doubled down and joined a profession to really rack up getting that again, right? So give everybody your story, your background.
I did. So in 1999, I was diagnosed with leukemia. I was working, I got a packaging degree from Michigan State. I was in the business working for a box company. It was kind of a long process. I started on some medication, had to come off some medication. I wasn't feeling very well to begin with. You know, the big thing we talk about is 2 weeks. If things persist for 2 weeks, you need to go see a doc. And it was kind of along those lines. Probably waited a little longer. I was in my late 20s. But once we figured it out and moved on, and then, like I said, I got the diagnosis of what that was. And that was probably in the fall of like 99. So I started on some medication, was off, on that. Then I had to come off of it for a little bit. And then ultimately back then, for the type of leukemia that I had, the gold standard was a bone marrow transplant. So in June of 2000, I went to U of M, underwent high dose chemo for 10 days and basically wipe out everything you have. And then they bring in a couple big IV bags full of bone marrow and they just infuse it in. And then after a few days, your numbers start to come up because you have nothing, like no red blood cells, no immune system whatsoever. And that starts to come up. And after a few weeks, after being at the University of Michigan for a month, and I'm a Spartan, so being at U of M was tough, but yeah. I owe it to those folks down there too.
Yeah.
After that, and then, everything was going good. After a year, I've communicated throughout the year with my donor and his family. I actually got a letter one time with some stuff cut out of it. It was like one of those, you hold it up and there's like, things cut because they couldn't reveal anything about anybody. So, but after a year, they asked them and they asked us, and we both agreed that, yeah, we'd love to make contact with each other. And one day I got a phone call or I got a phone number for a gentleman out in Long Island, New York. Gave him a call. His wife answered, and she was like, yeah, I'll have him give you a call. He's on duty. And, whatever. So, I don't know, half hour or so later, he calls me up in the New York accent and, what's going on and how you doing?
Yeah,
and,
just all I hear is New York, Long Island.
Yeah. Larry, so
Larry.
So it was, it was good. But that's when I first met or first got to talk to him on the phone. A gentleman named by Joe, and he was on a ladder truck over in Brooklyn. And
Joe from Brooklyn, who's a New York fireman, sounds made up.
Yeah, no, it does, and that's all they are. There's like 1,000.
Yes.
So so Joe was my donor, and we talked to them. So that was probably early or mid 2001. Then 9/11 happened, and I think that had impacted all of us as firefighters, and probably a big reason why a lot of us got into what we did is that had an impact on us. So
how did Joe fare through that?
He was fine in Brooklyn. They got held up at the bridge. He ended up on the pile, and I would talk to him like every week or so, and he'd be like, "Oh, we're working 24 hours straight," and next week it was like, "Oh, we're on a day, we're off a day," and it was a big concern. But being in Brooklyn, they held him up, so he wasn't down in Manhattan and wasn't right there. So he was fine. I mean, obviously that was a concern for us. And originally, my wife now, we were dating at the time. We're going to go out to New York in that fall of 2001, and then we ended up postponing, and we went out in February of 2002. So I first got to meet Joe and his family, his wife Diane.
That was still pretty fresh, February 2002.
So we met them, and then it was a big deal, very big deal. New York Blood Center, U of M, they put the Bone Marrow Link was a big group back then, and they got us all together, and they did a big press conference out at the firehouse. I remember specifically one of the bagpipers coming up to me and saying, "This is the first good thing we've done since 9/11.
Oh.
And that really stuck with me. And my dad was a Detroit cop too. And, now, and I tease people, tease Trish all the time. Like, hey, firefighting's in my blood. That's where it's at. Right. And, so sure enough, I came back and later on that year, I got on Novi as an on-call and going through the process, and it took a few years, but I finally got hired by the Hills in 2006 and been there ever since. So,
do you feel like that inspired you to down that road?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much. I mean, there was a couple of things, like I said, my dad being a cop.
Yeah.
There's some service in our family.
It's one of those things you're like, I want to serve, but I don't want to be a cop because they don't have as much fun.
Nah. That was a fun conversation with him when I first called him. Like, Dad, I'm going to be fired. But he's like, why would you want to do that? And my dad was a cop in the 70s in Detroit, right?
Yeah. Totally different thing.
Totally different thing.
Now all the cops are like, well, why would you be a cop? Go be a fireman.
Yeah, go be a fireman.
They always talk about our chili.
Yeah. Guys sit around all day, play cards and eat chili.
Yeah, that's the common one. So all the guys from the 70s still say that about us.
Yeah. So, it was a fun conversation, but the old man really got a kick out of it. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And I still stay, pick up the phone, call Joe right now, and he'd be there. And he got a big kick out of me getting in the job. And
I bet.
We've met up a couple of times here. The family came out him and his wife came out for a wedding when we got married. And we've been out there for a couple of trips when the kids were younger. And it was a just amazing thing. And as much as cancer sucks, and it does, believe me, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Everything you go through with that, it really changed my life for the better. And it is crazy to say that, but I think it just because it changed my perspective on life and gave me that perspective.
Well, coming out of something really hard on the other side makes it the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
It always does. Like, I'm so glad I went through that. It made me who I am.
Right.
But you just said it. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
No.
Yeah, it made you a stronger person, but do you want your kids to have it?
No.
It's a weird thing, right? It's a really weird thing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that makes you, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Yes.
But it might kill you.
Yeah. And I mean, it was scary there for a while. There was a few days. I don't
Because you were how old at the time?
I was 27, 28.
You're a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, in all reality,
really I had no
you're
idea.
a kid. You weren't married. You didn't have a bunch of kids depending on you. You're just living a life. You're a professional. You said you're working in the packaging industry, doing your thing, going ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, then boom.
Yeah.
But it kind of gave you everything you have, is what you're saying.
And the other thing, too, is it gave me focus, right? Okay. All right. That's what this is. All right. Let's go beat it.
Yeah.
Right? It lasered my focus and what I got to do and how do I got to take care of myself and just all the things that went with it along the way that, kind of got me where I'm at now. So
yeah, and I want to get more into that and the support you had around you.
Sure.
But I want to move over to Joe for a second because I don't want him to feel like he's ignored. But Joe, you have been involved very charitably in your life for like the last decade or so.
That's correct.
Yeah. So give everybody your background into what you're currently doing with your charity organization to help people like what Larry was in and where kind of that came from.
Back in about 2008, 2009, I got laid off from Chrysler Service Contracts. I worked for a company called Imperial Marketing where we trained car dealerships how to make money. And I had quite a bit of money in the bank. I was very young. And with losing my job, my dad had a heart attack not long after me losing my job. And we had burned through all of our cash reserves trying to stay afloat. And this is where I learned it takes a team, it takes a village, right? my friends would come up to me like, hey, I got this side job over here you can do, or I have this. But when my dad had his heart attack, I had no money to fly home, which was Michigan. I was in Texas at the time. And all of a sudden, $300 showed up in a bank account for me to purchase tickets and take my son to Michigan for my dad to see him for the first time. So that's where I learned that it took the village. Like, I had friends that wouldn't let me fail. So fast forward, we moved to Michigan. We get back on our feet. I see a friend kind of in the same position I'm in, and we kind of just give her a little gift card anonymously. And you look on Facebook, and there's this long, sobby post of, I couldn't afford diapers. There's a $50 gift card here. So we just started helping people, and somebody found out about it and said, hey, you should start a nonprofit. What the hell is a nonprofit? So we started looking into that, and we just started helping everyday people who were like down on their luck like I was, and with gift cards. And over time, that's kind of morphed into helping firefighters with cancer. So in 2019, when cancer was deemed the #1 killer, firefighters said, all right, I have this really small platform, but I have a lot of followers. How can we bring awareness? And we said, we're going to walk across the state of Michigan in full fire gear.
Yeah, because that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It's literally the most ridiculous thing I could think of.
So
let's get the most uncomfortable thing I can think of to walk far distances and put that on.
well, I didn't even know how much money we were going to raise. I'm going to be honest. It was the dumbest, smartest.
Was it the first thing you thought of?
Yes. Believe
So
it or
you
not.
didn't even have a top 3 list to talk through. You're like, I'm going to walk
I'm
across.
all in.
That's the most fireman thing I've ever
All
heard.
in.
Yeah, I'm all in. Well, it almost turned into a divorce.
Well, I can imagine.
Because my wife's like, if you get injured and ruin your fire career over this, I'm going to hate your guts. So somehow I got Firefighter of the Year that year for the station. And my chief decided to let it out at the Firefighter of the Year Awards. And you thought my wife was going to kill me. But I had no idea my chief was going to say this.
So you hadn't told her yet?
No, well, it was a battle.
Oh, okay. So
We
it
were
was
still
like
fighting. I'm like,
you were still in negotiations
yeah,
at
we're
home.
like, I'm still going to do this. And she's like, you're not doing this. So so she looks at me and she mumbled some MFer stuff at me and goes, you have to do it now.
Yeah, they said it out loud.
Right.
In public.
Yeah.
Like around all these other departments.
Now if you fail, it's on her. Now she's
Right.
going to look bad.
So that June, for whatever reason, I decided to go on a hot month.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it was great. Great
call
idea.
God, this is not thought through.
No, it wasn't. We didn't plan it. So it was, but what we learned on this walk was amazing. I mean, it's all for a good cause.
Right.
So as soon as I stepped out foot that June, it started pouring rain.
Oh, perfect.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then it heated up to about 87 degrees. By the time I hit Rochester, sun had cooked me. I'm already dying 10 miles into this thing going, there ain't no way I'm making it. But what kept me going was how many people told me there was no way I was going to make it. I still have emails from certain people that said I would never make it out of Oakland County.
They took the time to write you an email.
Oh, well, I didn't. I saw the email by accident. So a storm came out by the time I hit Pontiac. I didn't even make it to White Lake the first day. We stopped kind of at the regional airport. So I was well short of where I was supposed to be. And
Okay, so before you keep going, what was the start point and end point?
Macomb Township. And we were supposed to hit White Lakes Fire Department the first
Okay.
day. And I'm about 10 miles short. And I lost all the skin on the bottom of my feet that day from the rain. Because I was
Yeah.
and I didn't have the right shoes. I mean,
right.
I didn't plan. I didn't know what I was in for. We somehow managed over the next 3 days to make the whole thing. Don't know how we did
And
it.
you ended up where? You started Macomb. You ended up where?
We ended up in Kentwood.
Okay. It's quite a distance.
We were supposed to finish in Grand Rapids. Somehow that didn't work out. But Cascade was begging us to stop there because they were having this huge party already with their city. And I'm like, I can't stop even 1 mile short. If I have to walk 4 more miles because so many people said I would never make it, I'm going to walk 4 more miles. And we did. And I'm very thankful again for the Forrest Gump train that I had behind me, because I would have never made it without them bringing me water and cooling me off and throwing water at me. We would have never finished.
Yeah, no.
But what we found was after the walk, we didn't raise a lot of funds. I think we did like $36,000 because Bob Seeger cut us a check for $13,000. He matched what we raised. And again, I didn't know what I was getting into. The eye opener and what kept this going was one of two things. We decided to hand deliver checks across the state of Michigan for the 12 people that had applied for help. And we met every single one of them and their families. And when we met them, we got to see everything they went through. And we got to see, hey, this guy doesn't have a stove. This guy doesn't have a furnace. This guy has no hot water. This guy doesn't have a car. This guy has no gas money to get to and from chemo. He has no money to stay in a hotel, and it's a 3-hour trip for him to where he's going. And then you got to get to know these families. So me and my wife come back, and we're already talking about, should we do this again? I'm like, no way. I go, that was like the world's biggest beatdown. I'm not doing it again. My captain, Gary Ross, was diagnosed with a lymphoma. He died on the operating table a few times. He survived. And this was right after we gave away all the money. And I told my wife, I go, this is going to be a yearly thing. This is God telling us this needs to continue. And every year, this thing's just gotten a little bigger, and we've raised a little more money, and we meet more and more families. And do some of them need the money? Probably not. But it's our way of thanking them for their battle.
There's plenty that do.
For sure. And then there's a lot that need the financial assistance.
It never hurts. Like, you just need a little help. Like,
Right.
I'm not poor, but if I get cancer, I wouldn't mind a little help. I got kids, I got stuff going on. So, I mean, I don't want to minimize what those people need.
Oh, no. Well, the big thing we learned is the retirees don't get a lot of help. And this is not a knock at any department, so I hope that they don't take it that way. But they're all in the beginning, 100%. First year, year and a half. But then, like anything else, it kind of fades away. And these retirees are kind of left holding the bag. And like any true firefighter, they're not calling anybody for help. And that's the one thing we've also learned is when they're diagnosed, they want to keep it quiet. They don't want to ask for the help. They're too proud.
There's a bit of pride in that.
Yes.
There's this suffer in silence has a badge of courage to it that we need to kind of take off.
Correct. It's like the mental illness, and it's tough to talk about. And we're trying to break that seal. Well, the same thing goes for cancer. We're trying to break that seal. So it's been a yearly thing, and we're just going to keep it rolling and do what we do.
How many years have you done it now?
Last year was our 5th year and our biggest.
And what'd you raise?
Last year we did about 215. We gave away 210. The other 5 went to the banquet that we bring all the firefighters into to feed them. And
I think that's fair.
Larry got
2.5% towards, teaching, helping your people. That's pretty good.
So we've already raised over 100,000 for next year. So we're rocking. We're not, we kind of failed our firefighters last year. Our goal is to give everybody 5,000. Everybody got 3,550, I believe.
That's pretty good. And
I said that's never going to happen again. But we helped 59 families. And we're already at 29 now. Yesterday, we picked up our 29th who just passed away.
Well, luckily, you're not the only one that's doing this type of work. And there's lots of people contributing. But what you're doing is amazing. Unfortunately, we're going to lose people along the way.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of expected. You're not doing it to save. You're doing it to help.
Right.
And what you can. And that's kind of like what we do. We show up, we do the best we can, and we move on.
Give everybody a little fighting chance.
Yeah. And we give them the best. We leave a little piece there with them. We do all the things, and we keep it moving.
Absolutely.
The only thing we do is we keep them along the way and make our family a little bit bigger along the way.
Yes.
And what you said before is it takes a village, a support network, a group, an entire huge net. Larry, what is out there when it comes to support networks and groups for our frontline providers who do get cancer?
So specifically, like I said, one of the organizations I represent, I'm the state director here for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, which is a national network of firefighters that come together to help support members that are diagnosed, mainly with mentors, some tools to get through some things, and just understanding where you can go and get help and keeping track of things and how those are going, right? What Joe does then is on the other side of that, kind of comes from the other way, is that he can give some financial support and help people out. Because I've been on the receiving end of people giving, and it means so much when you're going through something like that, it's just so hard to do that. But the best way you could do it, I guess, is to pay it forward. And I think that's why getting so involved, or what's drawing me to get involved in so many of these different organizations as I've gone, is what people did for me when I was going through my cancer battle. So other than that, there's some great resources out there. The American Cancer Society, Gilda's House here in Michigan is a great organization. Usually these come through, you get hooked up with these, different organizations as you get diagnosed. You get out there and learn, man. There's so much more out there on the internet, and just understanding, what's a decent organization, I think. But, a lot of the big name ones will help you steer you in the right direction. And then there's other organizations that are smaller that you hook up with and that are really more specific probably to the different types of cancer. There's a group for just about everything, I think, out there. Right. So it's hard to say them all, but I think the big ones, the IFF's been a big push, obviously, for firefighters and what they're doing, and getting out there with the PFAS and talking about that and having those conversations. And then what you guys are doing here with Frontline Strong, I think, is another resource, and why I think all of this comes together, right? Mental health and behavioral health and wellness is part of that too. We all talk about what can create some of those things in a cancer diagnosis at home, and anybody in the family, as I know we've talked about here in our group, is can be just as effective if you're end up being the caregiver or whatever. And there's support out there for those people too. We can help the caregivers a little bit with Firefighter Cancer Support Network and, help them if they're dealing with somebody as well. And there's lots of support. There's lots of people to talk to out there. It's just a matter of opening yourself up to it and doing that. So, yeah.
A lot of what prohibits people from reaching out for help is not knowing what that looks like. So if I was to get cancer and I wanted to reach out to the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, what does that look like? When I reach out, like they just answer and say, "Hey, how you doing? What kind of cancer you got?"
Kind of, if you, in the way they do it is if you go out to their website, right. You can become you just have a request for help. And you fill out a questionnaire and name and phone number and an address and your diagnosis. And then,
I'm guessing they reach out to you and take over.
And then what they do from there is then it sends to me if you're from Michigan.
Okay.
So then I, as the Michigan director, make contact with you. I've got some serious, different series of questions that I'm going to ask. What is it you're looking for? Right. I have other resources than we know, and Joe's a resource. And then also, we're pretty fortunate here in the state with the cancer presumption law that we have in the state of Michigan. And they've really expanded that out here just a couple of years ago, that it covers all kinds of firefighters and several different kinds of cancers that are out there. So understanding that cancer presumption in the state is a big deal, and that those funds are there for us as well. And just getting people hooked up with somebody who might understand that process a little bit, or at least steering that in the direction. I was going to ask you about that.
So you got the Cancer Support Network, which is designed to be like a big hub, and then each state kind of has its own representatives to kind of help the firefighters in that state. And then also in Michigan, we have this amazing thing that's happened in the last couple of years for the Cancer Presumption Act. Mm-hmm. So tell everybody what the Cancer Presumption Act is and who it helps.
So the Chris Slezak Fund. Chris was a firefighter from Sterling Heights. I actually met Chris. Him and I had a very similar cancer. Yeah. And unfortunately, Chris fought a long battle. And I think he got to spend time before his family before it ultimately took him. But they honored him by naming the Presumptive Act after him. And I think it's a great representation of the Michigan Fire Service. And all you got to do is you go out there and it just lists the different kind of cancers that we all know are out there and that we're trying to preach against now, and how to take care of ourselves better, right? We know what's going to come. We all understand that. We've seen the numbers. We understand that 75% of firefighters are occupationally dying from cancer, right? I think we just have to understand, and we're trying to learn and teach everybody how to take care of themselves. But you go in there and it has a list of diagnosis. And if you're diagnosed with that and you're cancer, people that I know who've gone through it have just raved about it and said it's been a pretty good program here in the last couple of years.
So the Presumption Act in Michigan covers all firefighters, volunteer, part-time, professional, full-time. And if you get cancer, it is presumed, because our job puts us in a lot of situations, and chemicals, inhalants, absorption through our skin, so many different ways that we can contract this disease, that it's just presumed that if we get it, it's from the job.
There's some things that our guys need to know and our ladies need to know in the service. If you are a smoker, you are going to get eliminated immediately.
Right. Yeah. What about a dipper? We got a lot of dippers.
You're out. If you're tobacco users, you're out. It's an automatic disqualification. You got to be clean of that for 10 years. And there's some wiggle room there. But talking to some of the guys that get denied, it's a process to get approved for that. And,
it is.
And it's very specific cancers. There's a whole list on
their
them website.
It's specific. It spells them right out. And most of them are related to the job of what we do, inhalation and skin absorption and the different areas that goes into and things. So.
Okay, so Larry, you are pretty close to the information when it comes to reduction and prevention of cancer. You're in a position where you're getting a lot of the data of how we're getting cancer and how we need to stop getting cancer. And, prevention is the best medicine.
Yeah.
Right, where you gear all those other things. So give us an overview. What are some things that we can do to eliminate the risk of cancer or prevent it from getting worse if we do contract it?
Sure. There's lots of things out there, and you don't have to be your own advocate. The departments have come a long way. The service understands it, but it comes down to you as a firefighter taking care of yourself to protect yourself, for your family, and whoever else you love, right? Using your SCBA from the initial attack all the way through overhaul. If we could get guys to wear air packs all the way through overhaul, I know they're heavy, I know they're hot, right? We want to be there and in there doing the job. But if you can't do it with all the PPE on, then you shouldn't be in there at all. And I think that's the biggest thing. If take care of yourself, is wear your air pack all the times from start to finish. And if guys could do that, and our firefighters can do that, it's going to be a much better. And we're learning that, right? I mean, things have changed. We talk, like I said, I talked about my dad in the 70s, and the Detroit guys, they'd go in there and whatever. So
the guys still do it. They'll go in without their gear, and you're talking about an overhaul. They're walking around. They'll still do it. More are wearing SCBAs and not anymore. More importantly, the crap talking's not there. Hey, why you got that thing on? Yeah. At least that's not there. Yeah. So if you want to wear it and you should be wearing it and you're wearing it. At least we're not getting admonished for it.
It's
anymore.
slowly going away.
Yeah. We're all like looking at the guy talking crap and be like, seriously?
Yeah, like,
leave yours off. I don't care.
Yeah,
Right.
if you want to die, that's fine.
Yeah,
Let this
your
guy
problem.
do what he wants to do, right?
Air is free.
You know, the next one is gross decon on scene, which is a great one. And I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have done, I think we've had this conversation, right? You pull the butt wipes out after the fire.
Yeah, they got the fire wipes, the hot wipes, all the things.
Whatever you
Hero
want.
wipes.
Yeah.
They're all out there.
We call them BTF wipes, big tough
like
fireman
that.
wipes, right?
Yeah.
But it's fun to break those out and the guys start wiping off the soot in their ears and their necks and their faces and all that stuff and how black, and they'll go through 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 7 or 8 later. They're like, oh my God, and they're still coming up black. And that's because all the stuff we're exposed to, right?
Yeah. It happens to be right over a lot of glands that like to absorb things very easily.
Really where your skin's really thin right in here. Yeah, I can't figure out why it gets right there and we get
Crazy.
thyroid, right?
We've just added garden hose adapters to our pumps.
Yep.
So you're on and you can take a little
Oh,
shower.
that's nice.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. We've got the one, the decon pack where we can put the soap right in and spray it down and brush you off in the whole 9 yards and then break out the butt wipes and clean you up right there on scene, right? Shower right after the fire within the hour, right? We've all heard that. Probably shower within
Yeah,
the
how many
hour.
showers? I know you guys don't have this problem as much, but my hair stinks for a while after that.
Must be rough, Jeff.
Yes.
You know what, Joe? Can you help Jeff out with that? Can we write him a check for
Is this
that?
podcast over?
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, that crap sticks to you. Even
Yeah.
your mustache, it could be in there. It really holds on
Oh,
to
what
it.
gets in your nose and stuck in your nose
Oh,
hair?
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
smell
Your
that for a
nose
couple
after a
days.
fire?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, we all love how you're blowing black crap out of your nose 3
Yeah.
days later, right? But shower within the hour, get that stuff off, right? The best stuff to use, I know, Frank Lieb, who from FDNY, big safety chief over there, talks about it. You use Dawn dish soap is the best stuff to get all that crap off your skin and go from there, right? Keep PPE out of the living quarters. I think this one's pretty easy. I mean, we've got signs we've kicked out and I've seen them everywhere. We did the big PFAS push this year from MPFFU, the posters that we got out there. And I think that was a pretty big success. And I've seen them up in several places and that's a no-brainer. I think that one's pretty gone, but
That's been around for 20 years now where we don't bring the gunk in
we
there.
don't bring them
Right.
here, but back in the day, right?
Yeah, way back. 20 years ago, it just became a thing. I was just getting on the job, and
Yep.
everybody had a sign outside the door, no bunker gear beyond this point.
Right.
But your boots that you wear outside are cool.
Well, and that's the other
That's
thing now.
changing.
Yeah, that's changing now. Is people have house slippers and house
Yeah.
shoes that they wear in, and they're leaving their boots at the door, right?
Yeah.
They're
I
not
got a nice
wearing
pair of tennis shoes I wear inside the station. It's all cozy and
Yeah.
comfy. Yeah.
Yeah. This one's my biggest pet peeve at least my station, and I bet I can go to any one of your stations and I'm going to find it wherever I go in any fire department anywhere.
Whiny fireman.
Well, that
Oh,
and
That's always
that
thing.
and put your diesel exhaust capture systems on your apparatus, please, for the love of God, from the health and safety guy. Nothing easier than hooking up a dang hose that clicks to itself. It's what it's designed to do,
Yeah.
but heaven forbid we do it every time.
My favorite's when we're checking out the truck and we're running the engine super hot in a closed bay without the
With needle
evac
running?
hooked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know diesel exhaust is a known carcinogen, right?
A lot of it in a closed space.
Yeah. Oh, but the DEF cleans it out. Yeah, right. All right, and the last one, the one that I'm perhaps one of the biggest proponents of, and I will stand up and tell this to anybody, is you've got to see a physician. You got to get an annual physical. More and more of the departments, we're going through a new process right now with a new vendor for our department for annual physicals. Really got to get into NFPA 1582 and understand that, what that does and what that provides for your department. But be aggressive with it, with the cancer screening portion of that. And also with that is behavioral health too. I mean, this is part of that, what we talk to, but the more we can screen for these things and be proactive about your health care. And again, ever since I was diagnosed, I've been a doc every year since, right? And here I am 20 something years later, and I've never had a relapse, never came back. And I'm fortunate, right? I'm going to knock on wood, I'm not supposed to, but we'll do that. That everything's been great. But I will tell anybody who doesn't see a doctor annually for a physical that you're not doing yourself and your loved ones any favors whatsoever. Take care of yourself. And that's the biggest thing you can do is just go see a doctor annually, get a physical done. And that's like 90% of the battle of keeping yourself, healthy.
Yeah, hopefully some of these administrations and chiefs start to really work for us for getting more of these more specific screenings, calcium screenings, cancer screenings, all this stuff. And I know there's so many leaders doing their best to really get these initiatives funded so we can get more in-depth assessments to really, it'd be nice to catch a cancer at a stage 0 or 1 rather than a 3 or a 4, right?
Right. And there's a great organization, Detect Together, out there. If you get on the internet, Jason Payton is one of their, Jason Patton, whatever his name is.
Coffee guy.
Yeah, coffee guy with the ball dome. I like that dude.
Yeah, he's funny.
Great dude. I met him at FDIC, man.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really pushing like 2 weeks. If you got something going on more than 2 weeks, go see a doc. If something's abnormal, what your normal is. And if your back hurts and then your normal that or your legs here or whatever. But if something's going on that's new, that's 2 weeks old, more than 2 weeks old, you got to go see a physician about that. Develop these relationships with your physicians. There's tons of different stuff, and Fire Cancer Support Network's no different, that they have information for you to take to your physician, to let them know that you're a firefighter and things that they should be looking for. But all of our insurance, and we've all probably got pretty good, decent insurance throughout the fire service. It's one of the reasons we get in here is for the benefits, right? They all have annual physicals. Whether your department does it or not, who cares? So now you're waiting on for somebody else to do it, right?
Yeah.
The department should be doing it, and it's part of the standards to do it. But if it doesn't matter, you have the ability to go get it done. A lot of cities will pay you. Our city pays you. You go get a physical, and they give you $300 a year for it.
No kidding.
Yeah. So it's part of their wellness benefit through the city and through the insurance company that they do it. So maybe look at that from your insurance, something to talk about. Your
Could be cheaper long term. Paying people to prevent things that cost so much money.
Like you said, you catch it early. Their survival rates are insane. I mean, they're 80, 90, sometimes 100% in some of these. Where if you get something stage 4, your risk of getting through it is so much more diminished. So early access, or just like we talk about CPR, right? Or talk about these
stages of a fire, anything.
The sooner you can get to it and diagnose it and figure it out, then the easier it is going to be to fight in battle. So take care of yourselves, get an annual physical, develop a relationship with your doctor. My guys are probably so sick of it, but then we just did an instructor class and some of them are up there talking about this. I'm like, oh, man, I love you guys. You're actually listening to me. I'm actually getting through,
But in the fire service, and I'm assuming the other FST4, it's the same. Unless we say it a million times, it doesn't happen. We talked earlier before we even started the show about to change the culture with us.
Yeah.
Man, the amount of effort to move anything in one direction to get your own people to buy into it, that benefit, that nobody gets hurt from, is very, very hard.
Yeah, almost impossible.
Right. We're trying to save your life. Yeah. I don't want to schedule that.
I got this.
Yeah, but I don't have it, right?
Right.
And so it's a very hard thing, but to kind of make you feel better about not saying it too much. You can't say it enough.
No, I can't.
We have to keep saying it because then people are going to have an automatic response. Well, I got this. I better go get it looked at.
Yep.
Cool. That's it.
Something new, 2 weeks, go see a doc.
Yeah.
And talk to your doc, develop that relationship, go get your annual physicals. I can't preach enough.
The annual physical, that's a big one.
It's a big one.
They'll find little things. I remember a firefighter who we had to get physicals and it was mandatory to turn a thing and just said you had to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy fought it. He fought it. Turns out he had an aortic aneurysm that they immediately repaired, and he's still alive.
Yeah.
He would be dead.
Yeah, it'd be dead
if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
Go get it looked at.
Right. You can hear tons of stories. Some guys in Dearborn, they caught their cancer, because of these. And 3 of their guys went and had to go get stents on the spot because of the calcium check. So it's very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say it till I blue in the face, man. Go get a physical.
Well, it was very nice having you guys. Do we got anything else before I sign off?
Where can they check you out, Joe?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, it's free, and you don't have to. I mean, it's free money.
Yeah.
From us, it's free money.
Yeah, and I've got lots of resources and and references or people I can turn you towards if you get that cancer diagnosis.
Absolutely. Now, what if you're not a firefighter? For those people listening that are the non-firefighter of the FST5, what recommendations do you have to reach out to?
They can still reach out to us because we still help non-firefighters as well. The amount that we give is a little different, and there's 3 things that we assist with. It's terminal illness, house fire, or death in the family. You're eligible for $250. We go in order of a list, so it's first come, first serve. Once we raise the funds, we write you the check, and that's it. There's nothing more for you to do. We're just here to help.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, and other than that, the hospitals, there's going to be folks there that are going to help you out. They're going to have resources. Like I said, Gilda's House, a place here, at least in Detroit. I remember from that, and I talked to them this summer when we were downtown about that. And American Cancer Society is a big one. They're going to help you point you in the right direction. But there's a lot of organizations that are smaller, that are more local, that you're going to get turned on to once you understand your type of cancer. For me at the time, when I went through my bone marrow transplant, that's what I ultimately had was that there was a group here in Michigan that I think is still around, the National Bone Marrow Transplant Link, I think it's called, and they were very helpful. And they had some groups that support groups that I learned. I educated myself before I went in. And so once you kind of get that diagnosis, there's a lot of, different organizations specific to the type of cancer that you might have.
Fortunately,
that could help you that.
Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know what to say about this, but there's always people willing to help once you ask for it.
Yeah.
There's for all the problems that happen in this world, there seems to be a lot of people doing their best to help the people that need it.
Yeah.
And I think this is just one example of how humans are pretty damn cool.
They are.
They can really rise up we cause a lot of havoc. We can make a lot of problems and make a mess of shit. But at the end of the day, there's
true.
a lot of good people too,
There's
man.
a lot of good people out there willing to help. And sometimes, people you count on, you think of, and they may have a hard time. It may be harder for them, but then people you don't even know out of the blue come out of nowhere. And they write you a check for $500, and you're like, dude, I've met you like once, right? Or you don't know me.
And $500 might save your ass for the next month.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
whatever. But
the
only other thing I can tell you is if you know somebody with these issues and there's organizations out there, you can anonymously submit those people for assistance. We won't tell them where their name came from.
Nice.
We'll do all the reaching out on their behalf. We just need the name.
Yeah, I know a couple stubborn people that need help sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing you can do is what else can I do? Can I make you a meal?
Yeah, just reach out. Be a human.
Yeah, be a human.
Sometimes we forget about that. Sometimes it's just going over there and sitting there.
Yeah.
What up?
Just listening.
Absolutely.
Or driving them somewhere, right?
Yeah.
They need a ride. Or can I run to this? Hey, I'm going to this
Especially
store.
if it's a fireman. They want to talk. That's all we do.
No.
Bring me some coffee.
Yeah, bring me coffee, sit at a table, and let's complain.
That's what we do best, right?
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry Gambotto and Joe Warne, for joining us in the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode. We have more great content coming out soon. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.